welcome to this 13th episode of Data Friday. I am your host, Jean-Georges Perrin, or JG, and today is a special edition of Data Friday where we are going to invite Jean-Yves Stéphan from Data Mechanics, and is going to talk about his innovation around Apache Spark. So stay tuned, he's joining just right now. Okay, so
Hi everyone.
hello everyone. It's this screen, this camera. So I'm excited to have today Jean-Yves Stéphan, and for this, it's actually the first time we are doing Data Friday with a guest. Not the first time with an audience, but every time I made it with an audience, it kind of failed. People didn't get in and things like that. So it's actually a first on many points. And the idea here is that we have this one-on-one chat. If you, part of the audience, want to come, be respectful, but just ask your question as you feel. We have a very small audience. It's kind of a select kind of group. I don't want to have 200 people there because I don't want to pay for the 200 license on Zoom as well. But let's get started. And so Jean-Yves, tell me who you are.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for having me on the show. Jean-Yves, you can also call me JY, the initials. I'm the co-founder of Data Mechanics, which is a serverless platform for Apache Spark. Basically, it's a managed Spark platform like Amazon EMR or Google Dataproc or Databricks, but also very different. And we try to make Spark very easy to use and very performant through serverless features. And prior to founding Data Mechanics, I was an engineer at Databricks, the company created by the creators of Spark. I was a software engineer on the Spark infrastructure side.
Cool. So I'm curious about Databricks. I've got a few friends working there. So you are living in San Francisco, right? And now you.
Yeah, absolutely. I joined around employee 25, and
Wow.
when I left, we were 500, and now I think I'm not even sure, 1,300, 500 employee company. So
Okay,
it was
cool.
fun.
Yeah, I bet. So now you're back in Paris. You created Data Mechanics, this amazing SaaS platform, and one of the things you announced recently is that you've got a UI that can actually collect information from your Spark jobs and stuff. And so tell me more about this UI, and maybe you can show some of it.
Yep, absolutely. I'll start sharing my screen. Just we'll see part of the UI. So first, I should say it's not entirely implemented.
Okay.
We have a prototype, and now we're building it very hard. Why did we communicate about it? It's really because we wanted to get this feedback from the community, make sure there's a need that this would help people before we build it, because we're an early stage startup, our resources are limited. We posted about it on social media, and it was shared pretty virally. We had over 200 signups, and I think 15,000 reads of the article. And many people are reaching out over LinkedIn and asking me when it's going to be available. So now we're entirely focused on it. So maybe first, before I talk about really the Data Mechanics UI, let's dive back a little and talk about the Spark UI. So you're probably familiar, with this kind of screen. The Spark UI is the basic monitoring tool shipped with Spark. Everybody knows it. Few people really like it. Really, the pain points that we kept hearing from customers, from prospects, from the community is that it's hard to figure out what is going on.
Yeah.
You have a lot of information that pops at you, and it's hard to know, there were 200 jobs, which one took most of the time? Where should I spend my attention digging in? And then what is the bottleneck? Is there is there a performance smell? Is there a stability issue? You have to dig in. There's a lot of tribal knowledge to know how to navigate it. So that's why there's a pain point. And so our plan is to build a better Spark UI with new metrics. That's important. I guess we'll get back to it later. And also a better UX so that even beginners and experts alike need a better UX.
Yeah. I must admit that I've not been a great fan of this. I'm probably not in the happy few that likes this interface. So I'm definitely looking for change there.
Yeah, and again, and maybe this is also something we'll cover later, we are not implementing this directly in open source for technical reasons I can explain, but it will be free and cross-platform. So we are building something for the community, not just for our customers, because data mechanics is a managed Spark platform, but for anyone using Spark, whether you're running in the cloud or on-premise, whether you're a Databricks customer, an EMR customer, or whether you do everything from open source, we want you to be able to use this UI.
So how does it get delivered? How do you plan on delivering it? Is it's software that I'm installing on my personal computer, on my Mac, or is it something I install on the cluster? How do you deliver that?
Yeah. So the piece that will be collecting information about your Spark jobs is what's called an agent, and we use something that's already supported by Spark called a Spark listener, which is basically a jar that you attach to the Spark driver, and this jar is going to start seeing events about Spark. It's not going to see. So first, this agent is going to be open sourced. It's very important so that people trust us. They can make sure we're not sending private information. Yeah. All we care about are things like metadata about your Spark apps. How long did the app take overall? What were the jobs and stages and tasks? For each task, how much data did it read? How much data did it write? How much time did it spend doing shuffle? How much memory did it use, etc. And this is the metadata that we care about. So how will you use it? We'll provide init scripts for major platforms, and basically the init script is just attaching a jar to the Spark driver. Okay. This jar will send events to our backend, and then you'll be able to access this new UI from your web browser.
So I don't have to install anything on my nodes, or it's only when I run my driver app, I attach a jar. That's it for the agent.
Yeah, that's it. Probably you put in a couple of configurations so we know who you are, and then when you log into our UI, you'll be able to see all the apps that you ran recently with your user identifier. Okay. And yeah.
And the viewing part, the monitor part itself, is that going to be SaaS, or do I have to install something somewhere, or how do you see that part?
Yeah, this is going to be SaaS, so we're going to be hosting it. You won't have to pay anything. You'll just go to URL, log in, and you'll be able to see the data mechanics UI for all the apps that ran recently. Okay. There'll probably be some kind of time to live. Like the apps won't stay there forever, maybe a week, 2 weeks. This is also good in terms of trusting us. Like we're not using this to collect logs and keep them forever.
Maybe we should.
After a week or two, we'll clear them.
Okay. Now that's okay. That's very interesting. So basically, I add the agent to my POM. I'm a Java guy, so I attach the agent to my POM, run it, configure a few things, run it, and then I see things coming into the portal. That's actually pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. So what's your ETA for that?
We're going to proceed step by step. Okay. Yeah. The first step is probably going to be not as unfortunately not as sexy. Not all the UI element will be there. The real first step that we're going to do, and this may be a disappointment, but we're just going to build like a free hosted Spark history server. So basically, we're just going to give you the Spark UI for free. The Spark history server is the component that can play the Spark UI based on Spark event logs. And this is just the basic first step. I'm not sure we'll open it up to the world. We'll see. Maybe this will be like an internal version. Yeah. And then we're going to add the overview screen and then the more detailed screen for each stages and stuff. I would say the first step should be completed definitely early in the fall, so in a couple months. And then the overview screen with these kind of graphs that we're seeing maybe towards the end of the year.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So, and the transmission is via, how is the transmission done? It's a Kafka topic, or it's HTTP REST, or... You said it was part of the open source part, so that's how you're building trust, right? So
yeah, so the part that's open source is the agent that runs in Spark, and this is the most important part that people want to analyze because you want to make sure which kind of data are we really sending over the network. Yeah. The second part is really our backend, and this part we don't plan to open source because I think, anyway, we're putting lots of resources to develop it, so I'm not sure contributions would help us deliver it really quickly. So at least initially we won't open source it, maybe in the future. And then I don't think anyone wants to so there's a big backend part, right, where we need to ingest these logs in real time, store it in different databases. Mm-hmm. I don't think anyone will be wanting to run this on-prem because anyway we're going to deliver this free. So this part will be closed source.
How do you ensure security? For example, so the company I'm working for, Advanced Auto Parts here in the Triangle, we have quite a few people using Spark. We don't have a unified way yet of using Spark. So some people are using EMR, some people are using it locally. Some people are doing are investigating Databricks. Okay, so if I want to come to see them and say, hey guys, this is a wonderful data mechanics UI that not only speaking that the Spark and Kubernetes would be super interesting for us, but that side, I mean, just the UI, how do you plan on giving people some kind of API keys or something that will make the whole thing secure, so data, I cannot see my competitors' data, as well as even within the group? Do you plan to have some kind of rights? Because right now when you look at, I think that's also one of the problem with the current Spark UI is you go to the Spark UI and you see everything. Okay, so there's it's first it's hard to find something, but it's also by accident you just see everybody's else jobs and work and logs. So if there's information in the logs, then it's kind of
Right. So what we're planning to do is people will need to sign up on the platform. When they do, they will get basically an identifier, maybe a key that will be used to encrypt the data as it's sent over the wire over HTTPS, and then this data, the data mechanics UI, will be put behind an authentication mechanism. Initially, probably just to get some speed, we're probably not gonna have basically it's gonna be for individuals. We're not gonna have the concept of a company and then of the ability to share the data mechanics UI within the company. But this is something we could build on top. But just in the interest of speed, by the end of this year, these are features we could build later on.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But the thing is, so basically, even if I've got, or a team can share logging if they want, right?
They could, yeah.
So that's by team. I can isolate this way, and later maybe you'll have some more complex write mechanism. So, but that makes sense. Yeah,
absolutely.
Is there a real demo you're making, or just a recording?
Yeah, unfortunately, I can't make the live demo on my laptop, so
Okay.
the best I can show are the GIFs. But yeah, we have a prototype
Cool.
internally. The part that's already written is like the agent is like a simple log collection, but that wouldn't scale if we open it to the world. So that's the part we're investing in, and
Yeah.
then the front end parts that we've started building. Not part of what's in the GIF is just the design. Other parts are already built, and but yeah, unfortunately, I can't give you a demo. I can give you some ideas of how you would use it. How is this better for debugging, for monitoring than the current Spark UI?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah. So there are many things that are wrong, but I think this screen is pretty interesting just to get started. Um, at the bottom, you can see your jobs and stages over a timeline. And
Mm-hmm.
rather than having two tables, this is a great visual way to find out where your application spends most of its time. It's simple, but it's not there in the current Spark UI. And then aligned on the same timeline, you have CPU metrics. And today, the Spark UI doesn't tell you anything about the CPU. If you want to know stuff about the CPU, you need to open up the Spark. You need to have a separate monitoring system, maybe Ganglia, maybe Prometheus and Grafana, maybe something provided by your commercial platform or the cloud provider. And then you're going to have to constantly switch between the Spark UI and the CPU graphs and try to match the timestamps. Here, hopefully, it's going to be way more clear, and you're going to be able to understand that if at some point you're pegged at 100% during stage
Yeah.
18, that's because stage 18 is a CPU intensive part of your application, and that's going to be very clear. And then we give you a breakdown of what the CPU is used for. And so these are metrics that are actually already recorded by Spark, but they're not really presented in a simple way. And so you're going to be able to understand if your job is I/O bound, CPU bound, if you spend a lot of time in shuffle, if you have lots of resources that are unused, which is unfortunately too common, and also that's this type of graph where you see that half of your cluster's resources are unused is what prompted me to create data mechanics in the first place, because I feel that it's the job of the developer, but it's also the job of the Spark platform to avoid this kind of issue, and we felt that we could have an impact there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And well, that's that. I must admit, I really like it. Okay, I really like what I'm seeing here. It's can you drill down from there? Can you, if you click on something, yeah, are you drilling down or?
Yeah, if you click on the stages and jobs, you'll be drilling down on a page for the specific page or job, where you'll see similar metrics around CPU and memory. This is executor's peak memory usage.
Okay.
And yeah, they're also, I think they're later. Let's see. We also have some plan to add kind of graphs around distribution of your task metrics. So here you could see if you have stragglers, like maybe you have 90% of your tasks finished within a second, and then you have a few tasks that take a lot of time, and that's really bad for parallelism, and so on. So yeah, definitely it's interactive. You're able to drill down, and yeah, maybe the other part that's worth mentioning is the memory. Today, honestly, I'm not sure how PySpark users really can be confident about memory management and not making mistakes. It's very hard. It's very hard to know how much memory your Python processes are using, and so you're bitten with executors ooming, out of memory errors because your Python processes all of a sudden took too much memory, and you're in the dark. There are very few monitoring systems that give you this data. So even though I think 2/3 of Spark users are PySpark users, so that's one of the things that's new, and hopefully will really help PySpark users.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. that's indeed really really cool. Okay, wow. Anything else?
Um, I
Now
mean,
I want to try it. I just think I should keep the video for 2 or 3 months and just release it, because I don't want to get people too excited about things and not being able to play
yeah,
right away with it. Or we'll have to talk again
that,
in 2 or 3 months when it's out.
yeah. I'm sorry for if some people are frustrated. Um, we had
Frustration
to
is
do it
good.
because we wanted to make sure that there was a need, and you can't like commit to a 6-month project when you're a startup,
Yeah.
not verifying the user need. And we also put actually a feedback form in the blog post where when we released the blog post, and we got amazing qualitative feedback. We had some people reach out and say they're going to be beta tester. So we'll be working with them, and that's precious. So yeah, if I have anything
Yeah.
to say is, if you haven't already, feel free to connect me on LinkedIn and give me directly feedback, or feel free to fill in the form. I'll post the link with the video.
Yeah, we'll do that. Well, that's great. I don't have any more questions. Okay, I told you it's going to be short. Maybe a bit intense, but short. So I don't know if any of our audience wants to ask any questions. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask the questions. You should be
I
able to do that.
just realized that on the chat, Nabil asked me a question privately, so I can see it.
Oh.
Is Data Mechanics UI use both online historical app data? So that's a great question. Probably initially, again, for the MVP to be able to release something quickly, we will only be able to show information about our apps that are completed. However, we are designing the log ingestion pipeline so that we could definitely make it real time. So I think real time will be a few months later in the future. And his second question was, could I download the Data Mechanics UI and how? So unfortunately, it's still under development. As soon as it's the first version is ready, I'll be publishing it on LinkedIn and social media and our blog. And if you want to get an early access and maybe beta test it in exchange for feedback, let me know, reach out, and so yeah, as soon as it's ready, I'll tell you.
Okay. Do we have any other question?
Great. Nabil just wrote me another question.
Sure. Nabil, you can also unmute and just simply talk if you feel like it.
Maybe, but it will be easier in French.
Oh. Yeah, I know we are mostly French people here, but still, you've got to practice your best English. Go ahead, Nabil.
Yes. No, the third question is about if it's possible to have maybe the system give some advice for how to better configure the executors for maybe number of tasks to evitate the skewed data or memory for each executor and so on.
Yeah, that's a great question, and yes, so here I may use this time to also mention that the Data Mechanics UI is like a free product we're launching to solve a big pain point and also get some visibility into the Spark community. But we have the Data Mechanics platform, which is like an alternative to using EMR or Databricks, and it does exactly what you said. It automates the tuning of infrastructure parameters and Spark configurations. Typically, the type of machine you're going to use, so the memory and CPU settings, the number of parallelism, so the number of tasks, memory management within Spark, shuffle configs. So this is already in our product, and that's why we also want to give these recommendations in the Data Mechanics UI. I think in the MVP, we just want to focus on getting the data and showing it, but quickly, that's part of the design. I'll share my screen again. We're going to have recommendation sections let's see, recommendations section, where we'll be giving you hints either on your code or hints on the infrastructure. So yeah, it's important. Tuning your configs correctly can have a huge impact on performance and also on stability, because making bad choices can just result to crashes.
Yeah, no, I think once you've collected the data, you can start to have a lot of insights from the data, and I don't know what's your plan in terms of services, but even if you keep the anonymized data over time, you can also adjust that and make more global recommendation for performance. And down the road, maybe we can also have kind of self-healing, self-adjusting apps as well, because they will know. What I'm seeing also is that a lot of people keep sending the same jobs over and over with just a refresh of the data. So if that's the case, then the system can also learn from that and adjust its workloads and the way it's processing a workload from that point. So I think there's a lot of things which it can actually be super exciting down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe I use this opportunity just to share my screen and show you what we've built inside the data mechanics platform around that. So here I'm just, I opened up an API client, and I'm just starting a couple of apps by posting my request to this API. So the request says, oh, I have a Scala app, and this is the main application file, and these are some of the configs and so on. And now if I log in to the data mechanics platform, so this is like a managed Spark platform, you can see the two apps I recently started. One of them is running, the other one is still pending, probably launching the containers. And so, well, you can see configs, driver logs, you have access to the Spark UI. And then the part that's more interesting is tuning the configuration over time. And so oftentimes what happens, this graph isn't super interesting, is you have like ETL running every day, and you want to track some metrics, like you want to track maybe the duration of your app over time. You want to track the resource that it used, to have some cost tracking. You want to know how much data was read, written, and so already you can track this in our interface. This is kind of fake data because this is our demo environment, but if I show you how our customers use it, it can be pretty powerful. And then, under the hood, we use the history of all the the history of all the past runs of this application to make recommendation and apply them on future runs. So if we see that you're completely over provisioning your cluster, we could reduce its size. If we see that the data volume is gradually increasing over time, and maybe you're close to hitting a memory error, we can give you more memory. So things like that.
Yeah, that's already pretty insightful. So I think we should have another discussion about just the data mechanics platform. So any other questions? I'd like to stay on topic and make it kind of short, so that well, actually it's very selfish because it's 8 a.m. here on a Friday, and I'm usually starting out at 8:30, so that's a kind of early fun discussion in the morning before a good day of work. So I think if we don't have any questions, Jean-Yves, merci beaucoup. And
thank you very much.
And Godspeed. And we'll definitely keep in touch because I'm super interested with this thing. So see you, Jean-Yves. Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye, Nabil. Bye bye.
Have a good day. Keep in touch. Bye bye.